Hello. When I first started doing interviews, there was that short list of bands that I really wanted to do interviews with. And on that list, there was Riverside, Steven Wilson. Unfortunately, still haven't done Steven Wilson. There was Anathema, Opeth. And today, I'm extremely fortunate to be talking with Vincent from Anathema. Stay tuned. You're going to hear about the Optimist and what's coming up for the band. Cheers. Vincent, how are you doing?
I'm very well. It's baking hot in London. I'm in London, England, as they say, and it's 34 degrees, and everyone in England is complaining. It's
And
too hot.
and here it's pouring rain in Quebec City.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Hey,
looking
the
forward
the
to going
new
to Quebec City, man.
yeah, the new album, The Optimist, was released on June 9th. The
Hmm.
review seems to be extremely positive.
Yeah.
Congratulations. What's your thoughts so far?
Yeah, I think what are we? We're a few months after completion now, and there's very little I would change about the record. Just obviously nothing's ever perfect. I can say that there's a few things, but nothing major really. And I think to be in that position at this point is a positive way to look at it, really. So I kind of measure it on that. I, I not only measure my happiness with an album, whether I think it's, it moves me and I think it's good, and it's all those kind of things, if it's got like depth and honesty in it, etc., etc. But also if it's complete. Is it finished? Did we actually manage to finish it in the given time? And we did. So yeah. So that's there it is. Yeah, there it is. It's it's also a kind of a cross-platform piece of work as well. This one, I think Travis Smith down in California and San Diego, he's done an amazing job, a really stellar job on the artwork again, as he always
Yeah,
does.
it's
And
beautiful.
yeah, he's really brought this story to life by shooting it on location. He actually became the Optimist for a couple of weeks while he was driving up and down along the west coast to shoot this cover. And the full 40-page special edition is really a thing of beauty. I absolutely love it. So yes, that and the accompanying videos and visuals that will be coming out, and that will be showing live,
Oh, that's good.
because it's our intention to play the album from start to finish as one whole piece. One of those things where you don't even talk to the crowd, you're just kind of in the moment, and yeah, that's so. Then the second half of the set is, of course, all the other stuff. So that's like it's going to be a long, long night, when we play
Yeah.
in Canada. But yeah, so it's for me, it feels like a complete piece of work. Very little I would change about it. Very happy with it. Happy with it that it crosses different genres and tries out new things, and it covers new ground for Anathema, and also that it is this multi sort of platform sort of story,
Yeah.
if you like. It's not a concept album as such, because there's no written narrative, that usually accompanies a concept album. It's more a case of this feels like the soundtrack to a movie, and what you hear is scenes in this movie, and you hear scenes in between the songs. And if you look at the artwork, you kind of get where it's all headed, and what actually happens to this guy, the Optimist. So yeah, it's
Well,
yeah,
talking
very
about
happy with it.
the story, I heard there's something that it has to do something with the album from the 2001, A Fine Day
Yeah,
to Exit, right?
yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so on the front cover for A Fine Day to Exit, you see a car that's been driven to a beach, and inside this car are the detritus from somebody's breakdown, the the scattered whiskey bottles, cigarette packets, scrawn handwritten notes. There's a bottle of pills. There's a gun. There's all of this stuff, and this guy's obviously reached the end, and he's parked the car, and you can see that he's left his clothes on the way to the water. The implication being that he's committed suicide, but he's actually not. He's faked his own suicide and decided to start a new life. So a fine day to exit, that's what that whole thing was about, you know?
Yeah.
And the artwork on that, also by Travis Smith, was kind of sort of documenting this guy's descent, really, if you like.
Okay.
And the first song on the new album isn't even a song. It's more of a kind of, it's a scene, if you like. So it starts on the beach, the same beach that A Fine Day to Exit was shot at. And you hear the guy coming out of the water. He picks up his clothes, he gets in the car, he starts dialing the radio in the car. And he hears these hallucinations from his past, and you hear stuff from A Fine Day to Exit. You hear weather systems, and we're here because we're here and there, because these hallucinations are all part of his life. You know, it's memories to him. So he's hallucinating, and he knows something's going to happen. He knows that he's headed for the inevitable psychological crash that's going to happen, and he thinks if he drives long enough and far enough that he might be able to escape it, but of course he can't, you know.
Yeah.
And at the very end of the record, so he finds himself at a completely different place that he set out to be, and the opposite conclusion to where he thought he was going, but it ends up being the right one for him. So the first track is actually the coordinates of this beach.
Yeah.
The exact same location where A Fine Day to Exit was shot.
Okay.
And the same location where the Optimist is shot now, like parts of that. And the whole thing can actually be tracked, like his journey from San Diego, California, through the West Coast, up into through the wilds of the forests and all that massive scenery of Northern California, through San Francisco, into the middle of nowhere, basically, into Oregon. And that's essentially the trail there. So it's going to be interesting to see how we manage to pull off all of the visuals and the film stuff.
Yeah.
And then performing the whole thing live. We're preparing for all of that now as we speak.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that makes me want to put the record on and play it again.
Mm. Well, it's one of those that you have to listen to
I
from
got
start
the
to
red
finish,
version.
and it helps. Yeah, it helps if you do have the artwork, I would say, because it really can kind of illustrate a little bit more for you.
Yeah.
The red one's cool.
Very nice product. Very nice.
Yeah, we always put a lot of time and effort into artwork and packaging and everything. And K-Scope are great for that, you know. So
yeah, big time, eh? Did you guys do anything different for this album that you didn't do for any of the previous ones?
Yeah, quite a few things actually. I think the major one really was in the composition to begin with. So I've lived in Paris for, I don't know, 8 years previous to this record, and me and my partner, we moved to London, and Danny was already living in London. So when we had some free time, I said, okay, well, how about I find a place to set up my studio, you know, because I basically have my own studio equipment and everything. So if I find a place and I can get us a few months off from touring, how about that? Danny was like, okay, do it. So I found a place, I got it set up, and I spoke to our management and I said, basically, can we have, you know, a few months off from touring so we can write the next record? I said, okay, yeah, cool. I set up my gear, called Danny up. He came down and said, okay, what you got? And then at this point, it was obvious that Danny was in more of a collaborative sort of mood, really. So he had a bunch of things that he wanted to try out. And the first one that we tried out, there was this so rough recording. I don't know if he'd done it on his phone, but it sounded like he'd done it on an old tape machine that then got washed. through an old washing machine, and it came out garbled, and it had something about it. There was just these two chords, and I said, okay, we'll start with that one, and that was the Optimist.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so then Danny started to talk about this idea of somebody escaping and driving at night, just this visual. It was only later on that he would put together the idea of, like, tying it to a Find A to Exit and expanding on this character's story. But so what happened after that is I would basically kind of be the filter for Danny's and John's stuff, and I would produce it all and bring it all to the table and form it into a complete song, if you like. So it'd be for a song like San Francisco, for example, Danny wanted to cover Tangerine Dream song, because it had that sort of feel of, like, that kind of nighttime train at night, going through San Francisco, a place like that. There's this track called Love on a Real Train, which he'd heard from the Mr. Robot series on the soundtrack from that. And he actually said, you know what, if we covered that, it would fit perfectly on this record as this scene where we're going through San Francisco. And I said, okay, yeah, you're right, but there's different. I don't want to carbon copy cover it. There's different ways of doing it. One of my favorite electronic albums of all time, they covered that song. This was in 1994. And so, okay, well, that's interesting to me. But anyway, how about we just write our own piece of music that's inspired similarly by this nighttime train journey through San Francisco? We use that aesthetic as the ground, the jumping off point for writing a song. And he said, okay, we can try. I said, okay, piano, what you need is a delay. So he got on the piano, we put a certain delay on it, and he started jamming. And a few good things came out of that, but it was more of a kind of jammy sort of piece, and he didn't really know what he was doing at that point with it. It was like, okay, we'll come at it another time. And then he left, and then I said, okay, these bars here, these 6 bars here, that's the riff. So I kind of, while he's away, I just put together the whole thing and said, all right, it's that. And then he comes back to me and says, okay, well, what I wanted to do is take this curve. So it's got to go up. Because my curves were more like mountains. So it would go really up and then really down and then back really high again. And he said, no, I want it to be more subtle. So if you're looking at the dynamics, it would just kind of take a slight rise and then a slight dip and then go up for the big crescendo at the end. So it's like, okay, yeah, all right, so I'll do that, So then that's the way that me and him work together. With John, it was a similar process as always. He comes to the demo studio with, like, some shitty recording that he's done on his phone, and it'll be him playing guitar and going humming a tune, and there'll be the budgie going off in the background. His daughter will be there, like, asking for orange juice. There'll be all kinds of chaos going on. And he's got this recording, and then I'll kind of make sense of that. And what I always say of John's stuff is it's like trying to nail a cloud to a wall, because he doesn't even seem to play the same thing twice. Yeah. It's like, okay, how's that go again? Play it again. No, now play it again. And I'm like, that's different. That's fucking different to how you played it before. And he's looking at me like, what? Is it? Well, all right, well, whatever. So, okay, I've got to make sense of this stuff, So so it was a really fun period, actually, for all of us, for me, Danny, and John, because I would just basically be like the man in the chair making sense of all of this stuff and kind of producing it. And then after that, we went on tour, which is something we never do, because usually we're always writing music in the studio. So yeah, that was, if we took anything out of Making Distant Satellites, it was like, let's not write the album in the studio, please. Okay, fine. So then we went on tour. We already had a few tracks together. We saw how they went down, a couple of them. We changed a little bit around, and then a few weeks later, we went into the main studio for the first part of recording with Tony Dugan, who's worked with Mogwai and a lot of great soundtrack records that we listened to. He's worked with Paul Lennon and Morgan, who actually did the strings with us on this record. He'd worked with Clint Mansell, whose stuff I absolutely adore. So yeah, So we were way more prepared for this record, way more prepared. So I think that's what gave us this sort of time to really flesh out this story and to kind of focus on everything. I mean, we don't get me wrong, we still worked until the very, very last second, and we were still fucking with it and changing things and just fine-tuning it and working on those fine details right up until the very last second of mastering, which we always do. But at some point, you know, you just got to say, okay, it's done, let it go, run away. So yeah,
this is your 12th studio album, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it? Isn't it number 11?
11? Okay, I'm gonna have to verify that. I thought it was your 12, but you know what? Back in 1993, did you imagine still be writing records today in 2017?
I don't think when you're 17, you really think that far ahead, do you?
Yeah.
Really, you just kind of go, well, okay, let's just do this for now, you know.
Yeah.
How many records have we done? I'm looking at Anathema Wikipedia page here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, we've done 11, and we've done 4 compilation albums and 3 live albums and 3 EPs.
Yeah,
and
3
stuff.
live.
Apparently, we've done singles. I don't remember any of them, but anyway. So yeah, you don't really think that far ahead, really, mate. You know, it's more a case of you know. I tell you what hasn't changed from the beginning is this this idea that of experimentation being kind of more interesting than you kind of your normal songs, if you like. On the first album, we had a track that was it was written in reverse. No, so it was written forwards, and then we recorded it, flipped the tape, learnt it backwards, then flipped the tape again and recorded it playing the backwards parts, and then flip the tape again so you've got essentially what you originally wrote played in reverse with a reverse effect.
Wow.
So that was Scars of the Old Stream. We had like long classical sections. We had acoustic songs with female vocals, folk stuff. We had a 23-minute long ambient electronic piece. We had spoken word passages, you know, psychedelic stuff, like all kinds of this stuff. And I guess that was more interesting to us than you know, your straightforward songs. So yeah, it was quite obvious to us from day one that we would kind of that side of us would come out a little bit more, and we would try to explore that, because that's the kind of music we were listening to as well. Floyd and all of that, you know, is more kind of experimental. So yeah, we thought, well, okay, we'll explore our own sort of what we can do with experimental music, and I guess that became the evolution. The evolution was never planned. It just sort of happened album by album, song to song, day to day, you know. And I guess the more, as an individual, if you broaden your horizons more and your experiences and your tastes and your whole like perspective on music grows, then if you're trying to be honest with yourself and honest with your music, then it just follows that whatever your output is going to grow in tandem with your own, you know, as you broaden your mind throughout life. And that's what we did throughout our 20s and 30s and so on, and what we still do to this day. And
so the plan was never written down.
No, because then it would be contrived, you see. You know, if you contrive to evolve, I think you're going to miss the mark, you know. If you plan out an evolution, then it just, I don't know, it just seems wrong. It just seems like forced somehow. And you don't want music to be forced. It's got to be natural, especially the way we write. Everything we write is all intuitive anyway. So, you know, you might be one person, it's me, Danny, or John, sitting down to write three different things in one day, and they could be three completely different things. You know, one might be a rock thing, one might be an electronic thing, and one might be like a slow classical sort of piano-led thing. You know, and it's like
Yeah.
it could be anything. You know, from these people. So I just that's the way it is. And what happens? That initial moment of composition is like a sort of form of intuition, if you like, and then after that, the whole thing like appears in your head of how the instrumentation is going to be, who's going to sing it. At least you might not have the melody yet, but you know who's going to sing it. You know, it's one of them. It's like it feels right for me, or it feels right for Lee, or even Dan, or whatever. You know, and at that point, your real job at that point is to get out of the way. You know, and don't fuck with it too much, because the more you think, the more you talk, and the more you discuss, the more you plan, and it just you're trying to force the issue, you know.
Yeah.
And you should really try to get out the way and let the idea kind of be what it wants to be, and then eventually, like, if you can make a decision on it, you know, then you can look at it with objectivity and say, okay, well, what is this? You know, is it any good for a start, and is it, does it have depth? Does it have meaning? Does it move me? Does it have emotion? What is it trying to say? You know,
Yeah.
and instrumentation is one of those things that almost feels like it's chosen by the song. You know, so like close your eyes on this record, for example. It's the first time we've ever tried to do anything remotely sort of jazzy.
Yeah.
And but that started off as a piano riff, and it's straight away okay, that's Lee, and that's upright bass, and it's a sleazy sort of slow, specific kind of drum sound, and it's trombone, and that much we knew, and we didn't have the song written, but we knew that because that's what the piano is telling us, that, you know. So it's like, okay, it's that. And then finally, when you listen to the song now, that's exactly what the song is. The only addition to the song is flugelhorn, which the trombone player actually brought into the studio along with his trombone. So it's that you could do some lower notes, because a flugelhorn is lower than a trombone. So, and then and the upright bass player was able to use a bow and to get some kind of atmospheric scrapes and tones from the bass. Other than that, it's exactly as we first pictured it, you know. And so yeah, that's the same process for every single song that we've ever written, really. The only time it like that we think we fucked up, we might change it later, and it'll be because we haven't followed that path.
Yeah.
You know.
But yeah.
So
Would you say that The Optimist is the darkest record you've written since the 90s?
probably since a natural disaster, yeah.
Okay.
It's certainly the darkest on K-Scope's roster. Certainly. Yeah, so since a natural disaster, but you know, yeah, again, that isn't an indication of like, you know, like some new direction or anything like that. It's just the way this record is, you know, the way it needed to be. It's I suppose it's an ironic title, really. Given the fact that it's called The Optimist, and it's about one person's psychological struggles of the really quite extreme sort of manner. You know, I musically speaking, there are moments of like that kind of euphoria sort of feeling on it. The first song's super intense. The second one's kind of euphoric. It gets a little bit darker after that, especially towards the second half when you get, you know, Close Your Eyes, Wildfires, and so on, and back to the start. You know, but it's I guess, yeah. It's that's not an important thing to us, though. You know.
No. Okay.
It's not an important distinction to make. It's okay. You know, it's okay to say that and to have done it. It is true, but you know,
But
you know,
just out of curiosity, like you've been releasing albums pretty much every second year or so, except from 2003 to 2010. So would
yeah.
you mind like saying what happened during that period of time?
John joined the French Foreign Legion, and Danny started a hat company, and I finished my PhD in astrophysics, and and Jamie Jamie started his own pie making company. So yeah, between us we were pretty busy, man.
Okay. Okay. Uh, some medias are saying that you're slowly walking away from progressive rock and going more towards like alternative rock or even shoegaze or so. What's your point of view on that?
No, I don't know. I think we're always crossing different genres. I don't think we are one genre really.
Yeah.
I mean, alternative rock is a kind of umbrella term that covers everything for us. So, you know, progressive rock is still a quite genre specific sort of term. And I think that even the most hardened progressive rock fans will probably admit that we don't really play by those sorts of rules. You know,
Yeah.
we're a bit more straightforward than that probably. Even though we do have different time signatures, we don't write in a straightforward way. We do have different genres and things, but
Yeah.
you know, I don't think we're so complicated as writers. I don't think what we do is hugely technical. There's no guitar solos on our songs. There's no drum solos. There's no showing off moments or anything like that, which are all cool if you like that kind of thing. You know, it's just that we don't do it. You know, so alternative rock is probably closer to the mark, given the fact that it would probably cover a band like Radiohead as well.
Yep.
The same way as it does with a band like Anathema. I think that, yeah, alternative rock is less sort of genre specific.
Yeah. I like the way you explain it. I think it makes it clear. You're invited back into the next Cruise to the Edge edition in February 2018. Is it something special for you guys to be part of such a elite group of progressive rock bands?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, for me, like what I don't know about the genre specifics of progressive rock, because it was never really my thing growing up. What I lack in that sort of knowledge, I think I appreciate more in the mindset of people who make that music, and indeed not just people who make that kind of music, but people who just have that progressive idea in the first place. So someone going back to Bob Dylan, for example, you know, who wrote "It's All Right, Ma, I'm Only Bleeding" in 1962 when he was 21, and nobody had ever done anything like that before in music, and he really brought that and changed people's whole perceptions about what could be done with music. And he changed Lennon's perception, and Lennon changed a lot of things with his music, and so did Paul McCartney and the rest of the Beatles. And so the Beatles had that, and Pink Floyd has that, and David Bowie has that, you know, and Brian Eno, and even like Neil Young, and modern artists like Radiohead and Steven Wilson and Anathema and Ulver, for example. And these are people who just have this a progressive mindset. Not all of them play progressive rock, but they have this idea of trying new things, and of the I also think it's one of the secrets to longevity as well in music, is to and especially in this day and age, because people get bored very quickly this day and age, you know. So if you happen to be known as one of the artists who just constantly progresses and constantly challenges everybody by trying new things, then I think makes you a more interesting artist. Absolutely, that's what happened with Bowie. Absolutely, and then it wasn't for him. It was also about like his different personas and his own image and all of that, which was all part of the whole thing, which was genius work, you know. And yeah, you know, so I had this very cool idea that those kind of artists, you can still recognize who they are. So you can see who they are, the core of who they are. Is like, if you imagine a stem on a vine. Okay.
Yeah.
Now this doesn't root in the ground. It roots from its stem. So it can grow on rocks. It can grow anywhere. It can grow up the side of a wall. And the stem is the core of that artist, of who they are, and you unmistakably so. Tom York, you know,
Yeah.
David Bowie, and then they, the branches that come off of this stem are all everything that they want to try, and it goes as deep and as far as they like, you know, and they can try anything, and that's the best way to describe people who have this evolutionary mindset. It doesn't matter where they come from. What matters is what they're doing and where they're going, and it's all about now, now, now,
Yeah.
now. It's not about the past and it's not about the future. It's about now, you know. And that's the way it is for these people. That's the way it is for Anathema. It's the way, you know. That's why I couldn't tell you when I was 17 if we would still be here 20 years later. But I can definitely tell you. I absolutely can't tell you what we'll be doing 5 years from now musically. I have no idea. But I'll tell you, like, I know at least 4 tracks that are going to be on the next album. So, and I know what they're like. I know how we're going to do them. So that's about as far as I can tell you, really.
Great. You know what? We're almost at the end of the interview, but I still have a few more questions. But these questions will only require one word answer.
Okay, I have a lot of time, so you're okay.
Awesome. So if you don't want to answer, you just simply say pass.
Okay.
All right. So one, who's the grumpiest between the three brothers?
Oh, so difficult to say. Oh God, it might be me. I don't know. I'm very demanding. Like Jamie's like Jamie's like universally loved by all. He's like the road hog, the road trooper. But if things aren't going right, then he can get a face on. You know.
Yeah.
Danny similarly is like just kind of live in the moment. You know, just take it day by day. Like always tries to show a sense of humor. And I think it's me, actually, because I demand so much of my brothers and my compadres. I'm quite yeah, yeah, it's me. Sorry. But I'm not grumpy in general life. I'm not grumpy
No,
in real life.
no, no.
I only get grumpy when people don't do what they're supposed to do, you know.
Yeah, exactly. What country haven't you played yet and you wish you did?
Great question. Well, there's one coming up, Colombia,
Oh,
which I can cross off the list pretty soon. We're going there in August. Do you know what? Like, can I just go fantasy here?
absolutely.
And I would say like this would be if it was a different fucking world, but I would say Iran. Do you know why?
You go ahead.
Well, Iran is we've got the biggest fan base in Iran. You have no idea. We're like, I don't know, fucking
Metallica.
Metallica over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's insane, like that, and it just goes to prove that that the religious leaders and the political leaders of Iran are wrong about music being evil and about rock music specifically being
Yeah.
evil. And it's up to the youth of today to show them the way in the future. And I really hope that one day they do get to take control and they are able to force these old granddads out who talk out of their asses every single day about music, you know, and they ban music and they, you know, you're exiled from the country if you play in a band, you know, and you're a female, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say Iran, because if we get to play Iran, it means that country has changed for the better.
Wow, I love that. One word to describe the new album, The Optimist.
I've got to describe it to somebody else or to myself?
As you wish, sir.
As I wish. Okay. All right. I'm going to say one word. Harrowing. In parts.
That's good.
And he says that with a laugh.
Your favorite unknown band? By unknown, I mean like underground.
Frankie Sparrow.
Frankie Sparrow. Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
check on
He's from
that one.
Yeah, he's from Vancouver, and he moved to Montreal, I think, around the late '90s, and got signed by Constellation Records, and released a couple of great albums. My favorite being Welcome Crummy Mystics, which is one of my favorite records of all time. And every time I listen to that record, I'm transported back to exactly where I want to be, and it's one of my ultimate favorite records of all time. But then every time I try to push Canadian music or Canadian artists on my friends, because I am something of a Canada-phile, if you like, accidentally so, I would say. It's just that a lot of stuff that I like happens to come from Canada, and I ended up trying to play it to my friends and family, and they say, "Well, wait a minute, is this from Canada?" Yeah, but that's not the point. Okay, we're not listening then. You know, it's always with the fucking Canadian stuff with you. I'm like, come on, man. Like it's good stuff. Like, yeah, but it's Canadian. Yeah, that's not the point. You know. Yeah. Just sorry about that.
I don't mind Canada.
Yeah, it's pretty good, right?
Which is your own favorite track on the album?
San Francisco,
Oh.
I think.
What is the last album you have listened to in its entirety?
Roger Waters, Is This the Life We Really Want? Listened to it yesterday.
And your thought?
I loved it, actually. It's actually, yeah, I think it's a very, very important album. It's, I put a tweet out about it, actually, saying that like it marked the return one of the most important voices of the last 50 years in music. It's absolutely true. He is, and I think we've missed Roger badly. Yeah. You know, like I always like, you know, when the political landscape of the world takes a funny turn, as it often does, and you miss certain comedians who aren't around anymore, like Bill Hicks, for example, and you think, oh, what would he have made of that? You know, and it's the same with certain musicians who have got a great perspective on politics. And Roger Waters is one of those guys that you miss him when he's not around, you know, and especially when politics is going crazy, you know, and religious leaders are going crazy. Yeah. I think he's made a great record there. Yeah, really, really great. And the last song, what's it called? Part of Me Died. It's called, isn't it? Oh my God, it's heartbreaking. It's really beautiful. It's one of those melodies that when you hear it, it's like, oh fuck, this has been around forever, hasn't it? You know, it's like, hasn't this always been here, this song? Yeah. You know, and that is a moment of genius.
Great. That one's gonna be probably hard to answer, but what's your favorite Anathema album of them all?
The next one.
I like that. That's the last one-word answer question. What is the first poster you hung in your room when you were young?
I didn't have posters when I was a kid. I remember putting one up when I was about 16, 17, and it was, yeah, about that age, and it was like a psychedelic thing. it was just like a kind of arty sort of tunnel shaped psychedelic sort of different like kind of tunnels, you know, a multicolored sort of psychedelic bollocks, you know. It was one of those. It wasn't specific to anything. And then after that, it was Pink Floyd. There was got a great vinyl, like a gatefold of Dark Side of the Moon, and they had on the inside they had a poster of the pyramids, and it was all
Yes.
it was in blue, and I had that.
Oh, that's great. Well, you know what? That we just reached the end, and thank you so much for accepting the invite on Profile. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that. It's one of my, you know, like I probably mentioned before. There's a few bands that were on my on the list of I must have an interview with, and Anathema was definitely on that list. So I'm glad we did today. I'm very fortunate about it.
Okay, well, hope you enjoyed.
Oh, I sure did. And
Okay.
we'll see you soon in Quebec City and Montreal, Canada,
Yeah, man.
in August. So
I'm
we're
looking
looking
forward to
forward
it
to it.
so much. Yeah, really, really much. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to meeting everybody and seeing what the scene is in Quebec City. It's my first time in Quebec City, so really looking forward to that.
Yeah, and you're being more than welcomed.
Okay, thanks, man.
All right, take care.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Cheers.